Hi guys, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you again.
Over the past few years, I've been collecting paint samples from my local home center. As customers would use them and turn them in, the workers would save them for me. And now I finally have enough of a color selection to actually make something. After a lot of thought, I've decided to make a koi fish. So I've got a stack of white, black, and red. So we're going to start with that, but it turns out that these are way too small to start this project. So I'm making the base of the fish out of file folders to start out. Okay. So we've successfully taken this picture of a koi fish, gridded it all out, and blew it up. Now it's a mega fish. It looks kind of weird without the fins. So the tail fin will come off there. Head goes right here. And then we will build the skeleton out this way, like this. And then we can move it around, floppy fish like this. This is actually the head, but then we can kind of put it where we want and glue it in place so it's stiff. And then we have this structure to build the body on top of and put our fins and have it attached to the base and everything else like that. So the next thing I need to figure out is how to attach this onto here like that. Kind of put those together and then build this skeleton out. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's gonna work. I might just have to throw this whole thing away and start over. We'll see. Let's go. Okay, we're making a mess, but I think I figured it out. So I've got side-to-side view, and then I also made this top-down view, so I get that taper the way it should be. So I'm gonna just use this one to measure so I get everything the right way. So I'm taking the paint chips, measuring up and down how big that's supposed to be, and then on the other side, I can take it on this side with the corresponding piece and measure it that way, and then just connect them together with a curve, and then connect those four together, the four quadrants, and that should make a pretty nice ellipse around the profile of that fish body. And then kind of just tape and glue everything together, hodgepodge like. It's just, it doesn't need to be super strong, it's just paper, and just have some kind of structure there. So that's what we're gonna try. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, so we'll just keep on going with it. I've never done this before. I don't really know what I'm doing. Just kind of making it up as I go. It's a good thing about art. You just do it. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. For eyes, I got this ping pong ball, cut it in half, and then I've got these metallic paint pieces. Where's the book? Here's the book I got it out of. So I had all these color choices. My wife picked those two that are missing, which are these two. Even though fish don't have colored eyes, I thought it'd be kind of cool. So we're gonna take these, make some irises out of them, and then I cut little tiny pupils. So we'll stack those up, fill this thing with hot glue because I don't have any fancy, epoxy or resin or anything like that. So we're just gonna fill it with hot glue. It's gonna be a little bit cloudy, but I'm kind of okay with that. So we'll see how it turns out. So let's get on that. Cha-ching, cha-ching. So it turns out it just melted the ping pong ball. I don't know if you can see that or not. But instead, with a rocket ball, instead cut it open. So I started with putting some hot glue down first, and then putting the piece of paper in for the color and the iris, and this is what we got. That's how it turned out. So it actually came out really clean. I was very surprised at the texture I was able to get out of it. Let me see. Focus. Okay, so we got a couple bubbles, a few deformities, but I mean, this is way better than I expected to get out of hot glue, the quality. And look at that shimmer because it is metallic paint. That is so cool. I'm thrilled with that. So, I'll make another one of these, stick those in there, and then kind of try and clean up these edges a little bit, make it a little bit more circular, and see if we can't make it good looking. But man, that is so cool. Look at that. So that worked out really well. So if you need to make eyes and you don't have a fancy epoxy, use a racquetball. Works really good. So this is what I've got so far. I got the head all stabilized with these strips going across. And then the rest of this, got the body in there. So I'm going to bend this kind of in that classic koi fish shape, and then do the same thing I did with the head, where I glue these strips on to kind of stick it in place. And then I put these little tabs on all along, so it'd be really easy to glue those on. So that's the next step. Sorry I'm not really showing you the whole process. I'm kind of just showing you the step after I've done it. But my hair's all jacked up. You know, I'm just goofing around. Didn't really think that any of these steps would really work. I'm kind of just experimenting, and they kind of worked out, I guess. And then also the way that I'm building it, I'm just gonna be in the way of the camera, so I can't really even show you what I'm doing. So, sorry. Do better next time, I guess. After many attempts, I finally got the fish stabilized enough that it'll hold its shape. Putting all these little braces all along the sides to hold it where I need it to be. And then I still need to curl this tail just a little bit and add the fin, have the fin come around this way. But we're just gonna laminate a couple pieces together, kind of in a curved way, so it holds that on that side. The next step is to put the fins on the whole thing. So we're gonna start with the dorsal fin, and to do that I'm just gonna take a whole bunch of strips of a bunch of different shades of white and fold them in half like this. That way there's color on both sides. So we'll fold it in half, glue it together up here, and then this will go on either side of this guy like that, and glue in place. And then once everything's on, we'll kind of just give them a haircut, and then that'll separate these two, and it'll kind of flare out, and I think that'll look really cool. And then we'll do the kind of the same thing to all the other fins. I don't know what I'm gonna do the back fin yet. We'll see if that works out. Don't know. But let's get going on that. Gotta cut out a whole bunch of strips now. Also, in my research, I found out that if a fish has cloudy eyes, that means it's sick. My poor little fish is sick. He has a disease. So, well, I think it still looks cool. Cut out templates for the fins and kind of just stuck them on there. Cut fins out, fins for the fins to go in there and attach to these structures in here. So it's finally starting, you can see that, finally starting to look like a fish instead of, I don't know, weird tube with eyes. Looking good. we'll keep on trucking along with that. So I'm just gonna stick those on there, boom in place, and then I'll do the same thing I did with this fin. But these will have a little bit more support, so I'll be able to glue those strips on this direction, and it'll be magical. Let's go! Okay, so it's coming along. Wow, look at that fish. It's a fish! It's starting to look like a real thing. It's gorgeous. So I put the tail fin on, and check out this curve that I was able to get. That's pretty sweet. Just like that classic picture of koi fishes that you always see. So the way that this curve is holding itself together, so I laminated these together just like they do plywood or skateboard or something, and then I taped it, if you can see that guy right there, my trusty dusty bucket of mud. That was kind of the perfect radius that I needed. So I covered this whole thing in glue and then taped it onto the bucket and let it dry. And now that it's dry in that form, even if you bend it back or distort it, it'll spring back to that curved shape. So that's all solid now. And then I'll add this fin texture to that whole thing. And then I also added these golf balls, if you can see. There's one, and there's one. Just as a counterweight, so that it's balanced for the stand. Because eventually this thing will be mounted on a stand and I'm going to have some water, I think. Maybe, we'll see how it goes. But this whole curve and leaning away from the center of gravity, I had to counterbalance that with some weight, and golf balls kind of just fit inside there, and I had a bunch of extra ones from my round of golf this morning. As I was putting the texture on the head, the eyes seemed to be getting more and more cloudy, which was really disappointing because I really loved how they looked when I first made them. Maybe I'll redo these later, but maybe I kind of want to save them. I don't know. Okay, let me show you what I got going on. So, we're starting to scale the fish, like you've been seeing. Pretty cool. So I got 3 different sizes, 1, 2, and 3. These are the biggest ones, obviously. So we're gonna start with this one and go to about right here, maybe right there, with the small ones. And then we'll transition to the medium ones from like here to here. And then once we get to kind of the middle where that belly really starts to pick up right here, the rest of that will just be the big scales. And then we'll have kind of finagle it and end and cut off all this and have a nice transition to the head texture. So I'm cutting out thousands and thousands of scales. I'm working on, I got my different colors. I need to cut out some more whites to finish up the small ones. Doing lots of math. So we'll keep on going for it. And then I'm just kind of, I don't have a pattern in mind or any kind of plan. I'm just winging it. I do have kind of this line set up as the center of the fish. And same thing on this side. Got this center line so that I can keep my line straight. And then I'm also using the structure as my kind of guide to keep everything oriented properly. Most difficult part that I think I'm going to run into is on this side. Obviously the fish is kind of curving that way, so the scales should be more spread out, and then on this side they're going to be bunched together, and to keep those lines consistent around the fish and kind of make it look like it's supposed to. But there's going to be so many scales, I don't think that it'll really matter. So we'll just wing it and see how it goes. Okay, so my fish is done. Whew. But my studio is trashed. So it's covered in little bits of paper everywhere. Gotta clean up. Okay, so the next thing to do, I've got this little hole in the bottom of the fish, there. And then we're gonna take this little PVC pipe, and it's got the, I got cut a little slit in. This is just a template, so I'm gonna make a different one. But this slides right in here, like that. And then I can mount this to a board that I'm gonna decorate and paint, and possibly use the paint chips to make it look like water. And then that will sit up there, and then you can mount it on the table or on the wall or whatever else. So we'll see how that goes. Making it up as you go.